Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Haskin, bringing you this fan-based, band-endorsed podcast, Music of Uriah Heep. And why wouldn't I? They're a great band, and I've been enjoying their music since I was a little guy, and that was a long time ago. And many of you have as well. And then there are those people who are new to Uriah Heep, and welcome to the family. So today is actually, it's kind of melancholy. It's the last song for Demons and Wizards, one of my favorite albums, a very famous album from the band. And it kind of feels weird that I'm passing it already and heading into Magician's birthday tomorrow. That being said, this is a really interesting track that we have today because this is, even on the CD itself, it's listed as a demo track. So it doesn't have that polished sound. It hasn't been cleaned up or mixed. It's pretty rough and raw, the sound is, but you definitely get the feel of the song and where it's going. So, for those of us who grew up listening to, each other giving us tapes on different bands that we played with and whatever on a cassette recorder in the basement or in the garage, we're kind of used to this sound. Been a while though, I have to say, but definitely something that's familiar ground for me, at least with the sound type. And I'm sure you guys will be fine with it. But that kind of sound is actually a little nostalgic for me when I think about it. You want to join a band, they've set you up with an audition, they send you a tape of their stuff so that you can learn a couple songs for the audition, and you really get used to that sound. But before we start on the song, there is one other thing I wanted to point out, because I was thinking about this earlier. Again, I can't find a lot of references to similar music to Uriah Heep before Uriah Heep came along. There really weren't a lot of people doing anything as progressive as they've done, as innovative as they've done in the styles that they've done it. I mean, it just simply didn't exist. So when you think about these guys as songwriters or performers, think about them as innovators as well, because they really have been, and continue to be to this day. But especially back then, there was no precedent for this. You could say, well, yeah, there was Little Richard for rock and roll. There was the Beatles. There was Elvis, whatever. But, where was the look at yourself? Where was that kind of style? I mean, it just did not exist before these guys. So, it to me, when I remember to put it in those terms, because those are very important things to remember. And, I just tend to, because I'm so used to a lot of these songs that I don't really think about it. But it just goes to show how great these guys are. And, the things that they've created started a new type of music, really. And not every single song, of course, but there's definitely been a change, a shift in the creativity and the writing. And a lot of that had to do with these guys. So try to think of it in those terms too. Amazing when you think about it. So today's song is called Green Eye. It's not one that I had been particularly familiar with before I got this deluxe CD. So I'm guessing a lot of you out there may not know it as well, as you know other songs, or as well as I didn't know it or barely knew it. But it's an interesting little tune. I think it had some potential. As far as I know, never saw the light of day anywhere as a finished track. But, those things happen. When you're writing, you just write and you write and you write and you get a bunch of stuff. And then you say, okay, here's everything that's going on the album and here's everything that's left over. And sometimes those things that are left over make it onto another album from another writing session. They say, hey, let's pick that up again. That was going somewhere. Or a lot of times they don't. They just sit there in the archives, and this is the only chance that we get to hear those could have been songs of bands. And I'm really glad I got to hear this one. It's an interesting little tune. So, I say, let's just get right to it. So you can tell that there's no noise reduction. You can tell things are very raw sounding. Cool little riff, some good starts and stops, which is pretty classic for Uriah Heep, I have to say. But a good strong sound. I really like the way that the keyboards and guitar are playing together. I'm not hearing any bass yet, at least. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, it's a pretty good start. Well, I could be overthinking things. That is something I have done once or twice in my life, but that sounds a little familiar. Thinking back to a song called July Morning, and that na-na-na part, that's like the second half of the na-na-nas. That's okay. You could take an idea you have and rework it into something else. Surely something that any band can choose to do, but certainly kind of recognizable to me at least.
Will you stay out late tonight? Will you try to come in late? Will you do it for the hay? Will you give me all your love? Give me all of that more time. I give you more than you play.
Well, it's a little tough when, the voice is going in and out like that to really get a concept for what the story's about. So, as usual, I'm not going to worry about that so much, but I do like the sound of what he's doing. If I look at just what I'm hearing from the voice as an instrument, I think it's pretty cool. Of course, the bass is very heavy, got heavy drums in there as well. So it's definitely an unbalanced mix. Obviously, like I said, it's just a demo track. So you can't really expect them to spend the money and time on doing a full mix on a demo track. It's just not cost effective for a band to do that, unless you're mixing it yourself and you're not paying an engineer to be there, that sort of thing. But in most cases, you're in a studio anyway, and probably paying a good premium for that time and that space. So let's see where the song goes next. Interesting because it's just such a short riff that it seems like it would be more repetitive feeling than it is, but for some reason it doesn't feel that repetitive to me. I really like where it goes in the changes, though. I think those are some really innovative and interesting changes in a song. Yeah, it's really cool. I really kind of would want to have seen a finished version of this. I think I said that about the last one, didn't I? Very cool part there. I really like the way that the guitars are cutting through and changing things up a little bit, kind of standing out. Also like the fills that Lee Kerslake is playing there. Really solid drumming on this, just like everything really. But nice and solid, kind of everyone's just kind of feeling their way through it.
Manipulate, saying you just tolerate from your own defense. What have you got to say? Giving me all of that green eye, never let me out of your life. I'll give you more than you played it, when you understand that I'm all right.
That is a lot of reverb on David's voice that you can hear a little more clearly now that he's pushing the vocal a little bit more. sounds like he's kind of found a place that he's comfortable with in the song as they develop it. Really hard to say, but it's it's a great rhythm, great riff, and here's what's next. So a pretty cool idea. I think it had some potential. Maybe those parts of that appear in other songs that I haven't noticed yet. I'm sure I will at some point if they do, but maybe not. Who knows? But in any case, this is a pretty cool tune. Obviously, it wasn't finished before the album was done and not revisited to the point where it ever became a song on its own. But a cool little riff. It's good to hear the band just kind of jamming around an idea. I like when Gary Thain just stops playing and then everyone else does after that, couple passes later. But cool song. I'm glad that I got to hear it. I'm glad I got to see sort of behind the curtain of polished Uriah Heep. And that will do it for Demons and Wizards, you guys. That's it. Season 4 is a wrap. But coming tomorrow is season 5. So it's not like there's any summer break or anything. This show is a freight train that is just going to keep going. So whatever's going on in your day, I hope that you're having a wonderful day. I will too. We'll see you guys tomorrow for the beginning of The Magician's Birthday. Cheers. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, The Magician's Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show, and thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!